We are here to address the charges against you.
Yes, sir.
The laugh comes first. It fills the room before anything else does. A big laugh, the kind that belongs to a man who has not been told no in a very long time. Admiral Gerald Thorne. 2 stars on his collar, 30 years of naval service behind him, throws his head back and lets it go. And the room follows. Because rooms always follow men like Gerald Thorne. The lawyers laugh. The court reporter smiles. Even the 2 security personnel standing by the side door allow themselves a grin. And then there is the woman at the defendant's table. She does not laugh. She does not look down. She does not shift in her chair or pull at her blazer or press her lips together the way people do when they are trying not to cry. She sits with her hands flat on the table, palms down, fingers relaxed. She looks at Admiral Gerald Thorne the way a surgeon looks at a wound. Calm, precise, already thinking 3 steps ahead. Her name is Elena Marsh. She is 42 years old. She is, according to every official document in that courtroom, an administrative secretary GS7 employed in the Pacific Fleet Logistics Office at Naval Base San Diego for the past 6 years. She is accused of forging 16 military transfer authorizations. She is accused of allowing weapons worth millions of dollars to vanish from the system. She is accused of taking money from people who should never have had access to American military hardware. The prosecutor has called her greedy. He has called her reckless. He has called her the kind of person who thought no one was watching. Admiral Thorne has just called her Captain Photocopy. The room thinks this is the end of the story. The room is wrong. Because in the entire courtroom, there is one man who is not laughing. He sits in the advisory row, 3 seats from the aisle, a coffee thermos between his boots. His name is Master Chief Walter Kane, 56 years old, 32 years in the United States Navy. He has been in places with no official names, doing things with no official record. He has seen every kind of person. The military produces the brilliant ones, the broken ones, the dangerous ones. He is watching Elena Marsh's hands. He is watching the way she breathes. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds held, 4 seconds out. That is not how a secretary breathes. He reaches for his notepad, he uncaps his pen, and in the clean silence of his own judgment, he writes 4 words. Check her hands. In 30 years of naval service, Admiral Gerald Thorne had never been wrong about reading a person. He was about to learn what that felt like. This is the story of what happened inside Naval Base San Diego over the course of a single day. A day that began with a joke in a courtroom and ended with handcuffs in a hallway. A day that exposed a network of corruption stretching from San Diego to Washington to offshore accounts in countries that do not appear in any press release. But more than that, this is the story of one woman. What she gave up, what she chose to carry, and what she was willing to become in order to finish what she started. There are 3 things you need to understand before we go further. First, someone sold the convoy route of a SEAL team operating in Syria. 3 men died in the ambush that followed. One of them was 34 years old. He had 2 daughters. Those weapons, the ones Elena Marsh is accused of stealing, are connected to what happened to those 3 men. That is not an allegation. That is a fact that will take this entire story to prove. Second, Elena Marsh carries a leather notebook everywhere she goes. It is worn at the corners and cracked along the spine. It looks like the kind of planner you pick up at an office supply store and never quite replace. Nobody has ever asked her about it. Nobody has ever looked twice at it. That notebook is not a planner, and what is inside it will matter more than anything said in that courtroom today. Third, when Admiral Thorne made his joke this morning, he already knew exactly who Elena Marsh was. He trained her. 14 years ago, he was the man who told her she was the best logistics officer he had ever seen. The cruelty in that courtroom was not ignorance. It was a weapon. He was trying to break her cover before she could break him. She did not break. Keep that in mind for everything that follows. The morning of the hearing, Elena Marsh arrives at the JAG building at 6:47. The parking lot is nearly empty. The sun is still low, cutting sideways through the Pacific morning haze, the kind of light that makes everything look like it is recovering from something. She parks her Honda Civic in the civilian section, takes the keys, sits for 11 seconds without moving. Then she reaches into her bag and takes out the leather notebook. She opens to the last page with writing on it. She uncaps a pen, and she writes in small, precise letters 2 words. Day 730. She looks at those words for a moment. Not long. The way a person looks at something they have been carrying for a very long time. Then she caps the pen, closes the notebook, and slides it into the inside pocket of her gray blazer. She gets out of the car. She walks into the building. To anyone watching, she is a middle-aged administrative secretary going to a hearing. She probably already knows she is going to lose. Her blazer is unremarkable. Her hair is pulled back, simply no pins, no effort. She carries a canvas bag with a broken zipper. She holds the door for a lieutenant commander she has never spoken to, and he walks through without looking at her. He never looks at her. Nobody ever looks at her. That has been the job. 6 years in that logistics office. 6 years of coffee and copy machines and yes, sir, and no, sir, and I will have that ready for you by end of day. 6 years of being invisible in a building full of people trained to notice everything. Every file that crossed her desk, she read. Every access log she was permitted to see, she documented. Every name that appeared in places it should not have appeared, she recorded in the notebook that nobody ever asked about. 730 days. She rides the elevator to the 3rd floor. She finds the small conference room designated as the defendant's preparation area. It is the size of a large closet. 1 table, 2 chairs, a window that looks out onto the parking structure. She sits down, opens the notebook, and reviews what she wrote last night. Not the intelligence, not the coded entries from the past 2 years. Just 1 page near the front that she wrote on her 2nd day in the logistics office. 3 names. She reads them the way she always reads them. Slowly, completely. Then she closes the notebook, puts it back in her blazer, and folds her hands on the table. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds held, 4 seconds out. She is ready. The courtroom at Naval Base San Diego is not a courtroom in the Hollywood sense. There is no gallery, no elevated bench, no sweeping architecture designed to make defendants feel small. It is a room, institutional. Fluorescent lighting, drop ceiling, the smell of government carpet and old coffee. A long table for the panel of judges, a shorter table for the prosecutor, a defendant's table on the opposite side. They bring Elena in at 8:03, 2 security personnel. The young one barely looks old enough to shave. The older one, a petty officer first class with a careful face, walks close but does not touch her. They are following protocol. She follows it too. The room is already occupied. Lieutenant Derek Calloway, the prosecutor, 34 years old, is arranging his papers with the confidence of a man who has already decided how this ends. He is good at his job. He is efficient and sharp, and he prepares his cases with real discipline. He is also on this particular morning completely wrong about what kind of case he is standing in. The 3-captain panel sits at the long table, 1 commander beside them. All men. None of them have spent significant time in logistics. And then from a side door, Admiral Gerald Thorne. He enters the way admirals enter rooms, without hurry, without announcement. The room simply adjusts to him. He is 61 broad through the shoulders with the kind of weathered face that photographs well and intimidates better. 2 stars on his collar. Naval Special Warfare for 3 decades. He has commanded men in combat. He has testified before the Senate Armed Services Committee. He has, by any standard measure, had a career worth remembering. He takes his seat in the front row. He does not look at Elena when she sits down. Not immediately. When he does look, it is for just a moment. A quick assessment. The kind that happens in the space between one breath and the next. Something a trained observer might notice, and an untrained observer would miss entirely. Master Chief Walter Kane sitting in the advisory row with his thermos and his notepad notices. He writes, he recognized her. Then he underlines it. The hearing begins. The presiding captain reads the charges. Article 132, fraud against the United States. Unauthorized transfer of military property. Potential violations of Article 106 Alpha. The language is precise and damaging. Elena sits without expression, her hands flat on the table, her back straight. Calloway rises. He is practiced at this. The measured voice, the eye contact with the panel, the careful construction of a story from evidence. He is good at making complex things feel simple. In this case, he has been told is simple. He begins with the facts. Username B. Marsh. The login records pulled from the logistics server. Elena's workstation IP address, static, tied to her desk, appearing in the access log 16 times across a 6-month period. Each login corresponding to a weapons transfer authorization. Each authorization bearing her digital signature. The timestamps placing her at her desk during hours she was verified to be on base. He shows the financial records. A bank account in Elena's name. 3 deposits. $5,000, $8,000, $12,000. Each one arriving exactly 1 week after a transfer authorization was logged. All 3 originating from offshore accounts routed through shell companies, registered in jurisdictions that exist specifically to make money difficult to trace. He shows the inventory manifest. 40 M4 rifles, 22 M9 pistols, 12 tactical radios, 4 advanced targeting systems, all logged out. None logged in anywhere they were supposed to arrive. He turns to Elena, her username, her IP address, her digital signature on 16 documents, her name on the bank account, her deposits, her opportunity. He asks if she disputes any of this. She says she does not dispute that her credentials were used. He smiles, not the warm kind. Your credentials, he says, as if someone took them. Elena does not answer. That is when Admiral Thorne speaks. He does not wait for permission. He rises from the front row and addresses the panel with the ease of a man accustomed to every ear in a space turning toward him. He says he has been in naval special warfare for 30 years. He says he has seen leaks. He has seen corruption. He has never seen someone this sloppy. He says that if Elena Marsh were actually running an espionage operation, she would not leave her name on every document. She would not deposit money into an account with her own name on it. He lets the observation hang in the air. Either she is the least competent criminal he has ever encountered, he says, or she is lying about having any competence at all. The room stirs. Not quite laughter, something colder. And then he says it. If you were an officer, your rank would be Captain Photocopy. Full laughter. Calloway grins. The court reporter looks down at her keyboard. Even the young security guard at the door allows a smile. Elena Marsh sits still. She breathes. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds held, 4 seconds out. And then she looks at Admiral Gerald Thorne with the steadiness of someone who has been waiting a very long time for this exact moment. She says 7 words. Higher than yours, sir. You just don't know it yet. The laughter dies. Then it doubles. Calloway slaps the table. The panel exchanges looks that mix amusement with mild irritation. In the advisory row, Master Chief Walter Kane does not laugh. He looks at Elena's face, at the complete absence of performance in it. No bravado, no fear, no desperation. Just 7 words delivered with the precision of someone who has chosen them carefully and will not need to say them again. He writes in his notepad, she means it. Then below that, why does she mean it? Then after a pause, who trained her? What Kane cannot know sitting in that advisory row is that the answer to his question is sitting 9 feet away in the front row. What he cannot know is that Gerald Thorne spent a morning in 2010 watching Elena Marsh coordinate supply lines for a SEAL team in Ramadi from a forward operating base with 2 working radios in 1 vehicle, and told the officer beside him that she was the best logistics officer he had trained in 15 years. What Kane cannot know is that Thorne walked into this courtroom today knowing precisely who Elena Marsh is and precisely what she is doing here. The joke was not ignorance. It was an attempt. He wanted to rattle her, wanted to see some flicker of recognition, some break in the cover, some moment where the secretary stopped being convincing. He has seen good undercover operatives. He knows how they break. You humiliate them in front of a crowd and you watch their eyes. Elena's eyes did not flicker, which means Gerald Thorne understands as he sits back down in the front row that this is going to be considerably more difficult than he was told. The hearing continues. Calloway lays out the rest of his case methodically. He is thorough. He is right about every detail he presents. The problem is that he is right about details that were designed to be found, which is a very different thing from being right about what they mean. Elena answers each question with the minimum necessary words. Yes, that is her username. Yes, that is her workstation. Yes, that is her digital signature. She admits nothing she does not need to admit. She denies nothing that could be disproven. At 9:32, the presiding captain calls a recess. Elena stands. The security personnel move close. She walks toward the side door. And as she moves, Petty Officer Tyler Webb enters the room from the opposite corridor. Tyler Webb, 26 years old, thin, slightly nervous, carrying a laptop bag over one shoulder and a biometric fingerprint scanner under his arm. He works in IT security. He has been sent by Lieutenant Calloway to formally verify Elena's identity for the record, a procedural step that under normal circumstances would take less than 3 minutes. Tyler Webb has no idea that these are not normal circumstances. He sets up in the holding room off the main corridor. Concrete walls, fluorescent light, 1 camera in the corner with a blinking red light. Elena sits at the metal table with her hands folded, watching him arrange his equipment. He is professional, methodical. He walks her through the identity confirmation form on his tablet, all matching. Then he places the scanner on the table and asks for her right hand. She places it on the glass without hesitation. The scanner reads. The green light pulses. Match confirmed. Left hand. She switches. The scanner reads again. Tyler glances at his laptop to confirm the match and log the result. And then something happens that is not supposed to happen. The system does not simply pull her basic personnel file. It pulls something beneath it, something that the fingerprint scan has unlocked at a level Tyler does not have authorization to see, and the system knows it, which is why what appears on his screen begins encrypting itself, immediately collapsing like water draining through a crack. But not before he reads it. Commander Naval Special Warfare, clearance level Tango Sierra Sierra, status active, assignment classified. Then the screen goes blank. Access denied. Contact NCIS for authorization. Tyler sits very still. He looks at Elena. She is watching him. She has been watching him since the moment the scanner beeped the second time. Her face carries no expression he can read. No anxiety, no urgency, no plea for his silence. Just the same steadiness he could not have identified 10 minutes ago and cannot stop thinking about now. You saw something, Elena says. Her voice is level. It is not a question. Tyler closes the laptop. He says nothing. He gathers his equipment with hands that are not quite steady. He says he needs to go. He leaves. The lock engages behind him. In the hallway, he stops walking. He leans against the wall. His mind is running through what he read with the desperate efficiency of a man trying to convince himself he misread it and failing. He knows what those words mean. Commander, Naval Special Warfare. No GS-7 administrative secretary has those words attached to her name in any system. He pulls out his phone. He starts to compose a text to his supervisor. Then he stops. He stares at the unfinished message. His supervisor is Chief Frank Decker. He has worked for Decker for 2 years. Decker is competent and even-tempered and has always been straight with Tyler. But if what Tyler saw on that screen is real, then someone set this up. And if someone set it up, they needed help from inside the system. And the person most capable of providing that help in Tyler Webb's immediate professional world is the person he was about to text. He deletes the message. He puts his phone away. He walks toward the IT control room. Back in the holding room, Elena Marsh closes her eyes. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds held, 4 seconds out. The camera in the corner blinks red. She knows someone is watching. There is always someone watching. That has been the point from the beginning. Let them watch. Let them see a woman sitting calmly in a holding room facing 20 years in federal prison, apparently untroubled by her circumstances. Let them think the trap is empty. Somewhere in this building, the person she has spent 730 days documenting is watching a live feed and trying to calculate his next move. He is not thinking about a worn leather notebook in the inside pocket of a gray blazer. He is not thinking about the woman who has been watching him since before he started watching her. In the advisory row of a courtroom down the hall, Master Chief Walter Kane sits with his coffee gone cold and his notepad open. He reads what he has written. Then he closes the notepad and walks to the back row where Special Agent Diana Hartwell has been sitting quietly since the hearing began. Hartwell, 38 years old, NCIS. The kind of sharp that comes from spending 12 years in rooms where people are lying and learning to see the exact shape of each lie. Kane hands her the notepad without a word. She reads it. She looks up. He says, she is not defending herself. She is running an operation. Hartwell takes the notepad. She stands. She has a phone call to make. The recess ends. Officers return to their seats. The morning light has shifted, coming now from higher up, sharper, and more direct. Gerald Thorne takes his seat in the front row and folds his hands and waits. He looks at the door through which Elena Marsh will return. Elena walks back into the courtroom. She sits down. She places her hands flat on the table. She breathes. Day 730. The hearing resumes. And in the inside pocket of a gray blazer, a worn leather notebook holds 730 days of truth. Every name, every date, every transfer, every access log, every late-night login from a flag officer who should not have been in the system at 3 in the morning. Everything a jury will eventually need. Everything 3 men in Syria deserve to have. The trap is set. The rat has not yet run. But the morning is still young. The recess lasts 30 minutes on paper, and something closer to forever for the people who spend it knowing what they now know. Calloway uses it to review his notes in his second-floor office, feeling the particular satisfaction of a man who believes he has built something airtight. He has the username, the IP address, the signatures, the money, the opportunity. He has spent 11 years constructing cases from evidence, and this one is clean. Too clean, some part of him might acknowledge if he were inclined toward that kind of reflection. He is not this morning inclined toward that kind of reflection. He does not notice Special Agent Diana Hartwell leaving the building's east stairwell with Kane's notepad in her hand. She walks to the far end of the second-floor corridor and makes a phone call. NCIS Headquarters, Hartwell Pacific Fleet, Authorization Code Bravo Kilo 793, Personnel Deep Pull, Marsh Elena Catherine, April 14th, 81. She waits. Personnel pulls come back within 90 seconds on a good day. She knows what the results look like for administrative staff. A few pages employment history, nothing dramatic. What comes back this time is not that. The voice on the other end is careful in the way voices become careful when choosing every word. Ma'am, that file is restricted. O6 approval or higher required. Hartwell straightens. Restricted. She is an admin secretary in logistics. A pause. Then if you are calling about this individual, I strongly recommend you contact JSOC Liaison immediately. JSOC does not get involved in administrative fraud cases. JSOC operates in a different category of problem entirely, the kind where paperwork goes into folders that do not exist in the public record. She says, "Can you tell me anything else?" Contact JSOC Liaison, ma'am. They will know what to do. The line goes dead. She stands for a moment. Then she opens Kane's notepad and reads what he wrote. The breathing pattern, the calluses on the right index finger, the regulation codes cited by number, not summary, the steadiness of a woman facing 2 decades in federal prison. She walks fast toward the stairwell. She needs to find Kane now. On the first floor in the IT control room, Tyler Webb is trying to convince himself he misread what he saw. He is failing. He has pulled Elena Marsh's basic personnel file 3 times. It says what it has always said: Administrative Secretary, 6 years, GS7, clean record, basic confidential clearance, no flags. He has tried 4 times to access the file that appeared during the fingerprint scan. Each attempt returns the same result: access denied, authorization required, contact Naval Criminal Investigative Service. He stares at the screen. He runs a query he has run before: routine access, logs filtered by procurement system and sorted by user account. He makes it look like Tuesday morning maintenance. The results take 40 seconds. 3 names come up with irregular access patterns. All officers, all holding clearance levels high enough to authorize procurement transfers. Tyler looks at the access times: 2:47 in the morning, 3:18, 4:04, skeleton crew hours, dates he can cross-reference because he helped prepare Calloway's evidence files and knows them by memory. He goes through them methodically. The first access event against the transfer log, a match. The second, another match. By the 6th, his mouth is dry. 14 access events, 14 matching transfer dates. 1 username appearing in the logs at hours when no administrative secretary would have been in the building touching the procurement system at all. The username is not Elena Marsh's. He looks at the name attached to the username: Admiral Gerald Thorne. He gets up from the desk. He keeps his face neutral. He picks up the flash drive he has been keeping in his breast pocket since this morning. He says to no one in particular that he is going to run a quick check on the auxiliary server before the afternoon session. He walks out. He does not see Decker turn slightly in his chair and watch him go. He does not see Decker's hand move to his phone. The message Decker sends reads: "Webb is digging. Might be a problem." The courtroom reconvenes. Calloway delivers his closing framework with efficiency and conviction. He walks the panel through the timeline one more time: the logins, the signatures, the money, the missing weapons. He asks the panel to recommend immediate court-martial proceedings. The presiding captain looks at Elena. She speaks. She says she requests a full system audit. Access logs for all personnel holding procurement authorization. All flag officers included. The past 2 years, not 6 months. She cites the regulation, not a summary, not a vague reference. The exact code, the paragraph, the subsection, the specific language granting a defendant in a property fraud case the right to request independent verification of chain of custody documentation, including classified systems, when that documentation is being used as primary evidence. Calloway opens his mouth. He closes it. He opens his manual. He flips pages. He flips them again. The presiding captain looks at him. "Lieutenant Calloway, is that regulation accurately cited?" Calloway's jaw tightens. He keeps flipping. Elena does not look at him while he searches. She looks at the captain with the patience of someone who already knows what the manual says. Calloway finds it. The silence that follows tells the room everything. She is accurate. In the advisory row, Kane writes, "He knew she would do this. He cannot look surprised." The captain calls a 30-minute recess for JAG legal review. Thorne is on his feet before the gavel finishes landing. He moves through the side door with the controlled urgency of a man who has run out of time but will not let anyone see him run. He reaches the second floor. He reaches the small office he has been using since arriving on base this morning. He closes the door. He makes a phone call. He uses the phone he keeps in his left breast pocket. Not the one in his right. The one in his left is assigned to him by the Navy. The one in his right is a different kind of phone entirely. He says 4 words. Lock it down now. 2 minutes later, every exit in the JAG building seals. Magnetic locks engage. Red lights cycle on in every hallway. The public address system delivers its flat mechanical message. Attention all personnel. Security protocol. Tango Romeo is now in effect. All exits are sealed. No one enters or leaves this facility until further notice. This is not a drill. Officers freeze in hallways. Some pull out phones. Some move toward exits and find them locked. In the IT control room, 3 screens flash red simultaneously. Decker moves to his terminal. And in a server room on the 3rd floor, a set of backup surveillance protocols that have been dormant for 6 months, waiting for exactly this kind of system-wide disruption, come quietly to life. Elena designed those protocols. She designed them knowing that if she was ever close enough to the truth that someone needed to panic, the panic would take a predictable form. People who hide things inside systems protect those things by deleting them. Deletion requires access. Access leaves a trail. She built a system that would wait for the moment someone tried to clean the evidence and then record everything they did. In the holding room, Elena opens her eyes. She says quietly to no one, right on time. Then she waits for the door. Hartwell reaches Kane in the main corridor. She tells him about the JSOC referral. He tells her about Tyler Webb. They move to the IT control room. Tyler is already there, flash drive in hand. He hands it to Hartwell without preamble. She plugs it into her tablet. The logs populate. She scrolls, stops. She says the name quietly. Thorne. Kane looks at the screen. 14 events, 14 matches. He says a word he does not normally say in mixed company. Hartwell is already thinking through what they need. The logs alone are not sufficient. An Admiral's defense team will argue routine access at odd hours, authorized clearance, circumstantial timestamps. They need corroboration. They need something that places him not just in the system, but in the transaction. Tyler points to a second file. Offshore accounts, 3 of them. Deposits totaling just over $1,200,000 across the same 6-month period as the weapons transfers. Hartwell looks up. Where did you get financial records? That requires a warrant. Tyler's face goes red. He says it is possible he exceeded his access level. Kane almost smiles. Hartwell says the records are not admissible, but they give them a direction. She checks her watch, less than 20 minutes before the recess ends. She needs someone with enough authority to stop the proceedings before they go any further. She looks at Kane. He says Colonel Arthur Brennan, Department of Defense, Inspector General. He is on base today for a separate matter. Hartwell says, then we need to be talking to him in the next 10 minutes. They move toward the door. None of them notice the camera in the corner of the IT control room. The live feed that someone on the 2nd floor has been watching for the past 4 minutes. Tyler is halfway down the 1st floor corridor when Decker steps out of the side office. He is carrying a coffee mug and wearing the expression of a man who is simply moving through his workday. He says, Webb, where are you headed? Tyler keeps his voice even. Server room, routine maintenance. Decker looks at the flash drive. Tyler says it is backup files for the trial. Calloway asked him to make sure nothing corrupts before the afternoon session. A pause. Decker nods. He says if something is wrong, Tyler should come to him first. Tyler says, got it, Chief. Decker lets him go. What Tyler does not know is that Decker's second message was already sent. What he does not know is that Decker has been the network's infrastructure since the beginning. Not an architect, not a decision maker, a technician. The person who built the ghost accounts maintained the access pathways, covered the electronic tracks after every transfer. He received payments through his wife's maiden name. He told himself he was not hurting anyone. He stopped telling himself those things the day the news reported a SEAL convoy ambushed outside a Syrian city he had helped route weapons through. He did not stop working for them. He just stopped sleeping. Now he watches Tyler disappear around the corner. He makes the 3rd call. Meanwhile, Hartwell breaks from Kane and Tyler at the base of the stairwell and moves in the opposite direction, fast back toward the ground floor corridor. The holding room door is still locked from the outside. She uses her badge. She pushes it open. Elena is already standing, hands at her sides, blazer straight, the leather notebook in her left hand held loosely the way a person holds something they are about to put away. Hartwell says your file came back restricted at JSOC level. We have server logs showing flag officer access during every transfer window. We have a petty officer who saw your full classification during the fingerprint scan. The building is locked down and someone is using that window to clean the system before any audit can reach it. Elena says the breach is not coming from outside. Hartwell waits. Elena says third floor. Server room 2. Someone is physically connected to the backup system right now, pushing everything that would survive an audit to an offshore server. I know because I designed the backup architecture. I know every entry point, every fail-safe, and exactly how someone would move through it to make it look like external intrusion, while the real work happens from inside. Hartwell stares at her for 2 full seconds. Then she steps back from the door. She says, "Show me." On the 3rd floor in a server room that smells like cold air and machine heat, rows of black towers hum in the dark. Cables run across the ceiling in neat bundles. Emergency lighting has turned everything a dull red. Decker enters using a maintenance override code. He moves to the back of the room. He opens a panel in the base of the 3rd tower from the right. He removes a laptop from his bag. He connects it with a cable that allows root-level access to the backup system, the one the Navy decommissioned 3 years ago but never fully disconnected. Files begin to move. He is copying everything. The transfer logs, the financial records buried in the legacy system. The communication intercepts his ghost account captured and stored over 18 months. Everything that could survive an audit and tie the transactions to specific people. He needs it gone. He needs it on a server in the Cayman Islands where American warrants do not reach. He needs 20 more minutes. He does not have 20 more minutes. The door opens. He turns. Elena Marsh stands in the doorway, behind her cane. Behind Kane Hartwell with her badge in one hand and her sidearm in the other. Decker reaches for the cable. Freeze. Hartwell's voice is flat and absolute. Step away from the system. Hands where I can see them. Decker stands. His hands come up. His laptop screen is still active, the progress bar sitting at 73%. Hartwell moves toward him. Kane moves to the laptop and disconnects the cable carefully. He looks at the screen. 14 months of transfer logs, financial records, communication intercepts, everything that would implicate people with stars on their collars. Elena steps forward. She stands in front of Decker in the red emergency light. She says his name once. Then she says, "You have been on the network's payroll for 2 years. $12,000 a month routed through an account under your wife's maiden name. You built the ghost accounts. You maintained the access pathways. You were the reason the transfers did not leave readable electronic fingerprints." He does not ask how she knows. People at the end of their calculations rarely do. She says, "You told yourself you were not hurting anyone." He closes his eyes. She says 3 men died in Syria when their convoy route was sold. One of them was 34 years old. He had 2 daughters. You did not pull the trigger, but you built the door they walked through. His face breaks in the way that faces break when the last piece of the structure holding everything together finally gives way. Tyler is standing at the door. He has been standing there since they came up the stairs. He is holding his laptop and watching Frank Deckerty, the man he worked beside for 2 years, and his expression is not quite betrayal and not quite surprise. It is entirely the face of someone who needed very badly to be wrong about something and was not. Hartwell cuffs Decker. She speaks the required words. Conspiracy, unauthorized access to classified systems, aiding in the transfer of military property. She nods to the building's security team members who have appeared at the corridor junction. They take Decker out of the room. The door closes. The servers hum. The emergency lighting pulses once and holds steady. Kane picks up the laptop. He looks at Tyler. He says 73%. Is this enough? Tyler nods. His voice is not quite right. He says there are enough intact records to reconstruct the chain. The transfers, the accounts, the communication logs. It will take time, but the core of it is there. Then Elena takes the notebook from her blazer. She opens it to the last page with writing. In the red light, Kane and Hartwell can read the 3 names from where they stand. Written in a hand so steady and precise, it looks like it was printed. Tyler is standing near the door. He is far enough that he cannot read the small margin notations, but close enough to read the names. He reads the first one. He goes very still. Marcus Webb. Tyler has spent 26 years carrying that name in a different place entirely. Not in a notebook, but in the particular silence that settles over family dinners when someone mentions Syria. In the way his mother still keeps a photograph on the mantle of a man in uniform who has his same eyes. In the 2 small girls who stood at a funeral in dresses too formal for children and held their grandmother's hands because their mother was too broken to stand steadily. He does not say anything. He looks at the floor for one moment. Then he looks back at his laptop and continues working. Kane looks at Elena. He says, "Not a question." "You knew, Marcus Webb." Elena is looking at the page. She is not looking at Kane, not at Hartwell, not at the room. She is looking at 3 lines of ink she has read every morning for 730 days. She says, "I designed the system they used to sell his convoy route." No performance in her voice. No rehearsal. Just a woman saying a true thing in the simplest way she can find to say it. "I did not know what they were using it for. The modifications I made, the route encryption protocol, the transfer authorization chain. I built it so that sensitive logistics information could move securely through the network. They turned it into a mechanism for selling convoy routes to people who pay well for that kind of information. By the time I understood what they had done with what I built, they had already forced me out. They had already constructed the false investigation. They had already made sure I could not come back through any official door." A pause, so I came back through the only door that was left open. Kane is very still. He says the secretary's desk. She closes the notebook. She puts it back in her blazer. She looks at him for the first time in the conversation directly with the expression of someone who has said the thing and does not need it repeated. He says day 730. She says day 731 tomorrow. The room holds the silence for a moment. Just the servers, just the red light, just 2 people standing in the wreckage of what a corrupt system does to the people who try to stop it from the inside. Kane has been in the Navy for 32 years. He has understood, in the abstract way, that long service produces that sacrifice takes many forms, and the ones that happen in silence are often the hardest to sustain. He thought he understood that. He understands it differently now. He thinks about the desk in the corner of the logistics office where this woman has sat for 6 years invisible, writing things down in a notebook that no one ever asked about. He thinks about what that costs, not the danger, the cost before the danger. The cost of getting up every morning and being invisible by choice, of being treated as furniture by people who should have known better, of sitting in a courtroom while a man who used to believe in her made a joke at her expense in front of a room full of people and breathing steady through it because the mission required it. He opens the server room door. He steps back. Half a step behind Elena, to her left, the way a senior enlisted stands near an officer. Not in front, not beside. The way that says, "I know who you are, and you tell me where we're going." Elena walks through the door. She adjusts her blazer. She checks that the notebook is secure. She looks down the red-lit hallway and calculates what still needs to happen before this day is done. They find Calloway in the second-floor corridor, moving fast toward the stairwell with a tablet under his arm, and the expression of a man whose case has just developed structural problems he does not yet fully understand. He sees Elena first. He stops. His prosecutor's mind is already running the calculation, assembling fragments into something that does not yet have a recognizable shape. He says her name. Then he says it differently. Not Elena Marsh, not Miss Anderson. He says Commander Marsh, the way a person says something they have heard secondhand and cannot quite believe. Elena does not slow down. She says, "We need the courtroom cleared except for the panel, and we need Colonel Brennan." Calloway says Brennan is already there. He arrived 11 minutes ago. Then he says, "What is happening?" Elena looks at him. She gives him 4 seconds of direct attention, which is more than she has given him all morning, and it is enough for something to shift in his face. Some recognition of a question he should have been asking from the beginning. She says, "You will understand everything in a few minutes. Right now, I need you to walk into that courtroom and sit down and not interrupt until someone with more stars than you tells you to speak." He opens his mouth. He closes it. He turns and walks toward the courtroom. Hartwell is already on her radio. She is trying to locate Thorne. The voice that comes back carries bad news efficiently. Admiral Thorne departed the building 12 minutes ago. Emergency override code on the main exit. He stated he had urgent business at JSOC headquarters. Kane says he's running. Elena's voice from beside him is even. He's not running. He's making calls. He has people who can shut this down from above if he reaches them in time. He needs someone with enough authority to bury the investigation before it becomes official record. She reaches into the inside pocket of her blazer. She takes out the leather notebook. She holds it in both hands for a moment. Then she opens it to the last page and turns it so Kane can see clearly. She says the burner phone he carries in his right breast pocket. "This morning in the lobby right before the hearing, he bumped into me in the hallway. He thought he was establishing whether I would react, whether the cover would hold if he made physical contact." She reaches into her blazer's exterior pocket. She produces a small flip phone. Old model, the kind that has no registered owner and routes through prepaid towers. She says, I have very fast hands. The training stays with you. The courtroom is quiet when they enter. The panel is at their table. The presiding captain is on his feet before he fully means to be. Calloway is in his chair, very still, watching the door with an expression that is trying to prepare itself for something it cannot yet name. Colonel Arthur Brennan stands at the side of the room with his briefcase open. Then the main entrance to the building opens. 3 people walk in. The crowd in the hallway responds the way crowds respond to authority that does not need to announce itself. They step back. They straighten. Some of them come to attention without quite meaning to. Vice Admiral Margaret Voss is 63 years old. She has commanded 3 carrier strike groups. She has testified before the Senate. She has spent 4 decades in service to a system that has not always deserved her loyalty, and she has given that loyalty anyway because she understood early that someone had to. She walks with the economy of motion that comes from spending decades on ships where space is not wasted. Beside her, Captain James Holloway, NCIS Pacific Director. Broad through the shoulders, sidearm visible. Behind them, Colonel Brennan takes a position at the side of the room, closes his briefcase and waits. Voss does not pause. She moves through the corridor into the courtroom with the directness of someone who knows exactly where she is going. She stops in the center of the room. She says, "Where is Commander Marsh?" The room does not answer. The room is trying to process the rank embedded in the question, the assumption embedded in the rank. Elena steps through the side door. She walks to the center of the room. She and Voss stand 6 feet apart. Voss raises her right hand, and in the same motion, without thinking, without deciding, Elena's left hand moves to the inside pocket of her blazer. It finds the leather notebook. The spine of it worn smooth along one edge from 730 mornings of the same reach, the same confirmation, the same need to anchor herself to the reason before beginning the day. She touches it. She feels the cracked corner, the familiar weight of it. Then her right hand comes up and she returns the salute clean and precise, the way she was trained to do it 18 years ago by people who believed the gesture meant something. Her left hand stays in her pocket for 1 more second. Then she takes it away. She does not need to open it to remember what is written inside. She has not needed to for a long time. She just needed to know it was still there. Today, standing in front of a vice admiral who crossed a building to salute her, she understands that it does not need to be in her pocket anymore either. The reason is no longer something she has to carry alone. Voss says, "Commander Marsh, welcome back." The room does not make a sound. Calloway's tablet is in his hands. His grip loosens. It slides from his fingers and hits the floor with a crack that nobody acknowledges because nobody is listening to anything except the silence following those 3 words. Elena returns the salute. Her hand moves with the precision of 18 years. Holloway and Brennan step forward. They salute in turn. Holloway says, "Good to see you again, Commander." Brennan says, "Your operation has been cleared by the Inspector General's office. Full authority restored." The presiding captain sits down slowly with the careful movement of a man who has just been told that the trial he has been presiding over was not the trial he thought it was. Voss turns to face the room. She speaks directly without performance, with the quiet authority of someone who has spent a lifetime not needing to raise her voice to be heard. Commander Elena Marsh, she says, served 18 years in Naval Special Warfare Logistics. She designed the supply chain architecture for DevGru and SEAL team operations from 2008 to 2016. She held top-secret sensitive compartmented information clearance and special access program authority. She personally coordinated logistics for operations in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, and locations she is not authorized to name in this room. A pause. In 2016, Commander Marsh was forced into early retirement following an internal investigation. That investigation was later determined to be based on falsified evidence constructed by individuals seeking to remove her from a position where she could detect their activities. The charges were quietly dropped. Her record was sealed. The captain says, very quietly, she agreed to go back in. Voss says she agreed. She gave up her rank, her record, her name in the public file. She allowed people in this building and across this base to treat her as invisible. She sat at a desk that nobody looked at twice for 6 years and documented every irregularity, every access anomaly, every financial thread that ran from this base to accounts in jurisdictions that exist to hide money. She looks at Calloway. She says, and she sat in that chair this morning while a case was built against her using evidence she planted herself. Evidence designed to make the people running this network believe they had a perfect scapegoat. Evidence designed to make them comfortable enough to stop being careful. Calloway does not move. Brennan sets his briefcase on the table. He opens it. He removes a folder that is several inches thick. He reads from the summary page with the precision of a man who rehearses this because mistakes in this room become part of the official record. Based on Commander Marsh's intelligence and evidence gathered this morning by Special Agent Hartwell and Master Chief Kane, he says we have identified 8 officers involved in this network. 3 commanders, 2 lieutenant commanders, 3 lieutenants, 4 civilian contractors employed by Ironclad Solutions, 2 individuals connected to lobbying firms that have been advocating for expanded procurement budgets for 3 consecutive fiscal years. He pauses. He looks at Voss. She nods. He says the network's operational leadership is not Admiral Thorne. The room waits. Brennan says Admiral Thorne served as the senior military access point. He provided authorization codes. He provided cover. He was the network's highest-ranking domestic military asset. But the individual who built this network, who recruited its members, who established the relationship with Ironclad Solutions and the foreign buyers is a former senior Pentagon procurement official. He currently serves as a consultant to 3 private military contractors, one of which is Ironclad Solutions. Brennan closes the folder. This individual signed the internal investigation authorization in 2016 that forced Commander Marsh out of service. He was not acting out of institutional concern. He was acting because she had accidentally flagged a financial anomaly in a procurement record during a routine audit. She did not yet understand what she had found. He understood exactly what she was close to finding, and he removed her before she could find it. He pauses. She had no idea she was a threat to him until they made her one. Calloway's tablet is still on the floor where it fell. He does not pick it up. He is looking at Elena with the expression of a man constructing, in real time, a new understanding of events he thought he already understood. He can see now, laid over the case he built so carefully, another case entirely, one that used his thoroughness as a mechanism that counted on his ambition and his certainty and his willingness to move quickly from evidence to conclusion. He was a tool. He was a good one. He sits with that. Elena looks at him. She does not look away. She lets him have the understanding without commentary because he has earned the discomfort of it, and adding words would be condescension. Calloway bends. He picks up his tablet. He sets it on the table. He opens it. He begins typing without being asked. Nobody asks him what he is doing. He is pulling Thorne's travel logs and cross-referencing them with procurement approval dates because that is what a prosecutor does when he realizes he has been working the wrong case and the right one is still open. Voss looks at Hartwell. Thorne, Hartwell says he left the building 22 minutes ago. Emergency override on the main exit. Said he was heading to JSOC headquarters. Voss takes out her phone. She makes one call. She speaks for 45 seconds. She uses the phrase, consider him a flight risk once her name and rank once without emphasis because they do not require it. She listens. She says, good. She ends the call. She says to the room, 15 minutes. They come back in 14. 2 NCIS agents walk Thorne through the main entrance with his wrists bound and his 2-star collar catching the afternoon light in a way that must feel deeply wrong from the inside. His face is stone, not the stone of a man who has given up, the stone of a man who is still calculating, still looking for the move that changes the board. The route to his formal processing takes them past the corridor intersection near the side entrance. Elena is standing there. She is alone. Kane is 20 feet away, near the water fountain, watching without appearing to watch. Hartwell is on her radio down the hall. There is no one between Elena and Thorne except 6 feet of linoleum floor in 31 years of shared history. The agents pause when Thorne pauses. He looks at her. For the first time since this morning, the calculation is gone from his face. Not entirely, but enough. Underneath it is something else, something older. The face of a man who watched a young logistics officer in Ramadi work miracles with 2 radios in 1 vehicle, who understood immediately that she was better at this than almost anyone he had trained, who believed for a few years that belief was sufficient. He says, you were the best I ever trained. His voice is low. Not a confession, just a fact he has been holding for a long time and has run out of reasons to keep holding. He says they knew that. That's why they needed you gone. Elena looks at him. She says, and you helped them. He does not flinch. He does not look away. He says, I was afraid of dying without leaving anything behind. He looks at his hands, at the cuffs, at the 2 stars on his collar that he has worn for 7 years. He says, it turns out that is exactly what I did. The hallway holds still. This is not a moment of triumph. It is not a moment of punishment. It is the thing that triumph and punishment tend to obscure the plain and terrible human fact of a person who was given a long time to choose and chose wrong, and is standing in the wreckage of that choice with nothing left to protect. Elena says nothing. She lets the silence be the answer. She has earned that much. Hartwell appears at the end of the corridor. She takes a position beside Thorne and speaks the required words conspiracy and fraud, and the articles of the Uniform Code, and her voice carries no satisfaction because there is nothing satisfying about this part. The agents move Thorne forward. He does not look back. Elena watches him until he rounds the corner. Then she looks at the floor for one moment. One breath. 4 seconds in. 4 seconds held. 4 seconds out. Then she walks back to the courtroom. Calloway is already at his feet when she enters. He holds out his tablet without waiting for acknowledgement. He says 16 trips to Washington in the past year. Every time he met with the same lobbying firm, Kepler and Associates. I also found emails in the system. 2 other flag officers, a Marine general and a Coast Guard admiral. Both hold procurement authorization in their branches. He says it the way a man says something when he is not looking for credit. He says it the way a person says something when saying it is the only way to begin closing the distance between who he was this morning and who he needs to be now. Elena takes the tablet. She reads for 30 seconds. She hands it to Brennan. She looks at Calloway. She says, "Send the travelogue corroboration to Colonel Brennan directly. This is Inspector General territory now." He nods. He starts typing, then he stops. He says, "I owe you an apology, not just for the case, for this morning, for the group chat, for every assumption I made before I understood anything about who you actually are." Elena says, "You built the case you were given evidence to build. You were efficient and thorough. The problem was not your process." He says, "The problem was my certainty." She says, "Yes." A pause. She says, "You saw something you thought was airtight and you stopped looking. That is the most dangerous place a capable prosecutor can be. You are too good at this to make that mistake twice." He looks at her for a moment with the expression of someone receiving instruction they will not forget. He says, "Understood." She says, "Good. Finish the log cross-reference. Holloway needs it before 5. He sits back down. He works. Voss addresses the presiding captain. She states that all charges against Commander Marsh are dismissed with prejudice, effective immediately. The captain nods. And he says with a formality that costs him something, "Commander Marsh, on behalf of this panel, I offer an unqualified apology. We should have questioned the evidence more carefully. You deserve better from this process." Elena says, "You worked with what you were given, Captain. So will the review board." She says it without softness and without cruelty. Just the truth. Voss waits until the panel has filed out. Then she turns to Elena. She says, "We would like you to return to full active duty. JSOC headquarters. Your rank restored. You would lead the inter-branch investigation going forward. Coordinate across all services. Finish what you started." Elena is quiet for a moment. The room waits. She shakes her head. Voss raises an eyebrow, not surprised. Waiting. Elena says, "Anchor 7 knows my name now. The moment I walk into JSOC headquarters in uniform, I lose every access point I have spent 2 years building. I lose the ability to move without being tracked. I lose the network I have built inside these offices, the relationships, the positions, the invisibility." She says, "Whoever Anchor 7 is, they are not finished. The network does not end with Thorne. It extends into the Pentagon, into lobbying offices, into procurement chains across multiple branches. Finishing this requires someone who can still move without being seen." Voss says, "You have been invisible for 2 years. Elena says, "I can be invisible for however long it takes." Voss studies her. Then she nods. The slow nod of someone who understands completely and would have made the same choice and is not entirely sure whether to respect it or grieve it. She says, "Full NCIS and Inspector General support. Whatever you need, you ask." Elena says, "Thank you, ma'am." Voss walks toward the exit. She pauses at the door. She looks back. She says, "Commander, I meant what I said earlier. We never forgot what you did. Some of us have been waiting a long time for you to come back." Elena salutes. Voss leaves. The room empties slowly. Kane is the last to approach. He stands in front of her for a moment without speaking, which is how he communicates most of the things that matter to him. Then he salutes clean and deliberate, the way a man salutes when he means it, as the highest thing he can offer. He says, "It has been an honor, Commander." She returns it. She says, "You saw what others missed. In the advisory row with your notepad and your coffee, you saw it before anyone else did. That matters more than you know." He says, "Ma'am." He pauses, finding the words. I have served 32 years. I have seen every kind of warrior this country produces. But what you do, the war that happens in silence, without witnesses, without acknowledgement, without anyone keeping score. He stops. He says, that is the hardest kind. She looks at him. She says, someone has to, Master Chief. He nods once. He walks toward the door. He pauses with one hand on the frame. He says, you call me if you need anything. Any hour, day or night, I will answer. Then he is gone. Tyler Webb crosses the room. He is carrying a tablet with a report on the screen. His movements are deliberate. He holds it out. He says, Sentinel Holdings, 12 shell companies registered across 9 jurisdictions. The ownership chain terminates at 3 individuals, 2 retired generals, 1 former Pentagon procurement official. All 3 are currently on retainer as consultants to private military contractors. Full report sent to Agent Hartwell and Colonel Brennan 40 minutes ago. Hard copies are in the system. Elena takes the tablet. She reads. She hands it back. She looks at him. She says, your uncle would have been proud of what you did today. Tyler goes very still. He does not ask how she knew. He does not explain when he figured it out or what it cost him to sit in that room for 40 minutes carrying it. He does not say what it means to him to be standing here in this room, having done what he did, having chosen correctly, when it would have been so much easier not to. He stands straighter. Something settles in his face. He raises his right hand. The salute is not perfect. It has some of the roughness of youth and some of the uncertainty of someone who is still becoming the person he is going to be. But the meaning in it is absolutely clear. Elena returns it with the precision of 18 years. She says, get back to work, Webb. There are more threads to pull. Yes, ma'am. He walks away. She watches him go. The apartment is small because she chose it small. 1 bedroom, a desk by the window, a kitchen that gets enough morning light to make coffee feel like a reasonable argument for continuity. She has lived here for 6 years since she arrived in San Diego to begin what she told the neighbors was a new civilian job after a quiet career in government work. She parks the Civic in the street. She takes her bag. She rides the elevator to the 4th floor. She unlocks the door and does not turn on the overhead light, just the desk lamp, because the overhead light is too much after a day like this. She sets her bag on the floor. She takes off her blazer. She hangs it on the back of the desk chair with the care of someone who understands that objects carry weight beyond their physical presence. She opens her laptop. She opens a new folder. She names it Anchor 7 Phase 2. She opens the first document and types the initial header. Case summary. Known assets. Known access points. Known connections to Pentagon procurement. Known connections to foreign financial channels. Areas requiring further investigation. She works for 20 minutes. Then she stops. She reaches for the blazer on the back of the chair. She takes the leather notebook from the inside pocket. She holds it for a moment. It is lighter than it should be for something that has carried this much. The spine is cracked. The corners are worn to softness. The cover has a faint watermark near the bottom right that appeared sometime in the 2nd year origin unknown. Weather or humidity or just the accumulated passage of days. She opens it to the last page with writing. 3 names. She looks at them the way she has looked at them every morning for 730 days. The same attention. The same completeness. The first name, 34 years old, 2 daughters, and in the margin beside it, a notation she added, 6 months in a single word found because she had confirmed by then that she was close enough to the network that the word was earned. She does not perform grief. She simply looks the way you look at something that required everything from you and is still requiring it and will keep requiring it until the last thread is pulled and the last door is closed. Then she closes the notebook. She holds it in both hands. She carries it to the desk. She opens the left side drawer, the one with a small lock. She places the notebook inside. She turns the key. She puts the key in her pocket. It is not finished. She is not finished. But the notebook has done what she brought it here to do. 730 mornings of anchoring herself to the reason. She knows the reason now without needing to read it. It is in her hands and her breathing and the way she sits at a desk and works without needing anyone to confirm that the work matters. She turns back to the laptop. A new email arrives, no sender. The address is a string of numbers that will resolve to nothing if traced. She opens it. No message. 1 attachment. A photograph. She opens the photograph. It is her. This morning. Walking up the front steps of the JAG building at 6:51, canvas bag over one shoulder, gray blazer, hair pulled back. The photograph is taken from a distance with a lens that costs more than most people's monthly salary. The framing is precise. The resolution is high enough to read the lanyard around her neck. She leans forward. She checks the metadata. Location stamp, timestamp, device identifier. She reads it twice. The photograph was taken from inside the JAG building. Fourth floor. The fourth floor of the JAG building contains 3 spaces. A conference room used for interagency briefings. A storage room officially vacant for 8 months. And the office assigned to Vice Admiral Margaret Voss during her visit to Naval Base San Diego. Elena sits back. She looks at the bottom corner of the photograph. An anchor, the number 7, one word beneath it, Sentinel. She stares at the screen for a long moment, not with fear. She has been in the room with dangerous things for a long time. She knows the difference between a threat and a message. This is a message. Anchor 7 is telling her something specific, telling her that the 4th floor, which should have been safe, is not safe. That someone within her own operational structure is reporting back. That she cannot assume the protection she was just offered is clean. Or it is telling her something else entirely. That Voss herself is something other than what she appears to be. Elena does not reach a conclusion. Conclusions reached at night after the longest day of a 2-year operation are not conclusions worth building on. What she does is open a new document. She types the metadata information in precise detail. She dates it. She saves it. She sends a copy to an address that does not belong to anyone inside this investigation. Then she closes the photograph. She stands and walks to the window. San Diego is luminous in the dark. The city spreads south and east in grids of orange light, the kind of light that looks permanent from a distance and is in fact perpetually provisional, subject to outages and interruptions and the everyday fragility of systems that look solid until they do not. The harbor is visible from here if she stands at the right angle. Running lights of ships, the dark shape of the bay where the water holds the city's reflection in long, unsteady lines. She thinks about Tyler Webb's salute, the roughness in it, the meaning underneath the roughness. She thinks about Kane walking half a step behind her in the red-lit corridor. She thinks about Thorne in the hallway saying, "You were the best I ever trained." Not as absolution, just as the last true thing he had left to say. She thinks about a drawer with a lock and a key in her pocket and 3 names she no longer needs to read every morning to remember. Day 730 is not finished yet, but somewhere in the hours between now and morning, it will become 731. The work has no interest in that distinction. She turns from the window. She sits back at the desk. She opens the folder. There are more names in the system, more access logs that do not mean what they are supposed to mean, more accounts in more jurisdictions, more connections between people who are trusted and people who should not be trusted running through the architecture of a procurement system that one woman designed and understands better than anyone alive. She was never going to be finished quickly. She knew that when she sat at the desk in the logistics office on her first day in a building full of people who would look through her like glass and open the leather notebook to the first page and wrote 2 words. Day 1. She types. The cursor moves. The city holds its light, and somewhere in the encrypted channels that route through servers with no public address, something is moving. Something that has been operating for a long time behind the face of legitimacy, behind the language of service and procurement and national security, behind the names of men who were trusted and used that trust as cover. It is moving because it is afraid. It is afraid because for the first time in a long time, the person hunting it knows exactly where to look. There is a question worth carrying out of this story, not as instruction, not as a lesson delivered from above, just as the kind of question that a long story earns the right to leave with you. How many times in your own life did staying quiet cost more than speaking up would have? How many times did someone sit in a room and be seen as less than what they were and bear it because bearing it was the only way to eventually be more than what the room decided? And how many people are still waiting for someone patient enough and capable enough and stubborn enough to come back for them? She breathes. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds held, 4 seconds out. The work continues.